Good morning. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. How are you all doing today? June 15th. They opened up the state. Everybody's happy. No capacity limits, they're saying. But I don't know about that because I saw some reports where they were talking about how these venues were going to, they have very specific instructions on how we're seated when we go into these public spaces. But, just be careful, man. Going out there, still out there, the COVID. Just want you to be safe. Wow, what last 14 months have been crazy, right? And the dialogue out there about the police and, man, everybody's, we've been upset. We've been out in the streets saying all kinds of stuff. Doggone it. No justice, no peace, But, made me think about, what about my brothers and sisters in uniform, though? I mean, because, for me, hey, you do need the police now. Okay, come on now. If we'll really be honest with ourselves, we need police. So I guess we're examining how the police, interact with our communities, I suppose. And anyway, I just want to hear from our brothers and sisters. They're wearing the uniform, they're doing the work. So I looked out, into my contacts and found my longtime friend there. CJ's Functional Fitness. That's what it is. CJ and Ade Lamar showed me this video years ago of a Spartan race. And we said we was all going to run it together. I was the only one. Good morning, CJ. How are you, my brother?
Hey, good morning. How are you? Yes, and that probably wasn't because of myself. I'm down for anything unless I'm busy with clients. I think a day wasn't ready, but not a day. Man, yes, it has been a long time, man. We've been together for a long time in another light, but due to the circumstances, I feel like I've kind of woken up the need for me to review myself in another light to present a picture as to what's going on today for everybody. The goal is for everybody to understand where we're at. Like you said, we do need police, and we do need to examine. But let's take a look at what we need to examine. And I'm just here. That's all.
So, okay. Let's get to the nitty gritty of it. When you saw in Minnesota what was going on as an officer, share your soul.
Well, let me paint the picture to who was with me. Everybody knows where they were when 9/11 hit, right? You know exactly where you were when 9/11 hit. I knew the stair I was stepping up on when 9/11 hit. Right. I was standing in a break room, looking at a TV with two male whites and a female white. And guess what? They're all police officers, and I heard about it. People on social media would just show me clips to try to get a rise out of me. But, I like to wait till I see enough. And one day, 8 minutes, 46 seconds. Wow. I mean, that's impossible. That's crazy, and, oh, he died. Oh, well, let me take a look at it. So soon after, my partners and I were looking and we're watching on the TV screen. And I mean, it didn't take but a minute for us to start saying, get off of that guy. Why are we on this guy anyway? I mean, he's handcuffed. These are police officers in the Los Angeles area in uniform. Like, dude, he's cuffed, isn't he? I mean, what's going on? And it got to a point where we had to, I turned off. I can't watch anymore. We saw you had law enforcement officers watching this from miles away in LA area, watching this, saying, turn it off. I can't watch any more of this. So to ask me how I felt, it's easy. My skin color would have you assume, maybe my uniform would cause a stereotype as to how I would think. But let me tell you who I was standing next to. I wasn't even the one that yelled, turn off. It was my partner. It was like, hey, no, can't watch any more of this. This is ridiculous. how we felt. I mean, intrinsically, I want you to feel that.
Mm.
Now I'm talking, let's bring it back to me. I was an absolute, I had to break it down on 3 levels. On the professional level, then I had to break it down to the human level. Okay. On the professional level, it's easy. I'm in my capacity. I'm the use of force expert for my agency. I'm the subject matter expert. Hey, you know what? They should have did this, should have, turned them over on the side, sat them up, should have got a rescue ambulance. But that was the easy part. But seconds later, I had to shed that off, shed that uniform off for a quick second and say, wait a minute, here's the next level. Here's the human level. Man, I am watching this guy die right in front of me. And this is painful. And guess what? There was a 3rd level, maybe that my other counterparts were or were not feeling. But that 3rd level, as seeing a person with my complexion passing away mercilessly at the hands of Derek Chauvin. That's part 1 of it. Then we had to watch his partner in front just stand there as if nothing was happening. Like, hey, let us do our job, whatever. Just that one angered me more because I know, and I've seen it happen. People, we intercede where I'm at. It's like, hey, partner, let me take over, blah, blah, blah. It appeared encouraged, and then it goes on a deeper level. The 2 young officers that were holding the legs, I think they'd even mentioned, and I didn't even hear that till after watching it 10th time. Hey, should we turn this guy over? Should we sit on? I mean, these are young cats, probably a couple weeks out on the job. So it hit me on all levels, Greg. And this crazy thing is, I felt, you know what, things are okay over here. Myself and a lot of the guys around me, we were talking. I was like, you know what? Okay, we're upset. We're upset too. This is complete. There's nothing to defend here. We're like, oh God, but it's not coming this way, because the mayor just got up and said that we're doing great. I mean, community relations, community programs, movies at the park, kids helping the homeless, you name it, we're doing okay. But it did, and it crushed us. It was demoralizing. I watched myself slowly demoralize, is my opinion, as a use of force expert. That's not right. As a human being, that's not right. As a Black man, that's not right. And then the icing on the cake was this civil unrest that I understand the anger, but man, we missed an opportunity, Greg. We missed an opportunity you had it. We were ready. There were officers ready to lock in with the community. We don't stand for it. But I believe what happened, and this is my opinion, people may share it, this maybe, whatever. I believe our city officials let us down. They made us the bad guy. They added fire to the narrative. They refused to let us solve crimes during the criminal element of the protests in some certain major cities, all over the state. It was crazy. And it was destructive. And we never recovered since. And you are absolutely right. It has been a rough year. But our question is, you asked me how I felt. I literally walked you through that process of how, and I'm coming out of it still. I'm better now because I'm able to articulate it. Back then it was from a place of emotion. Now it's from a place of, it's time to fix this, because clearly after a year, are we better off? Is your town better off crime wise? And it's not, we took the hands-off approach. We wanted to do the defunding thing, and many agencies were defunded. And we are seeing the remnants of that, with crime spiking on all over the place, everywhere from Long Beach to Los Angeles to LA County. Law enforcement officers able to do the simplest crimes can't. And what people don't understand, people that do the small crimes are going to be the ones that also do the bigger crimes later or now. It's the hustle. It's the hustle of the criminal element. So when we don't address, when we're not allowed to address certain things, well, that's how crime gets spiked up. So it crushed us. We were polarized. So if you're asking my total feeling, after 25 years of being on the job, this brother right here was ready to quit. And I meant it. I was ready there I had many discussions with my wife, ready to turn in the badge.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And let me know if I'm talking too much, because I know you have more questions, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you a whole perspective as to where I was going. As far as family,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being human, I had family relatives that I love and I still love dearly
Mm-hmm.
that had issues with me. You know, what are you still doing there? I had friends, clients, ministerial leadership family. You know, hey, what are you doing here, CLeon? You need to quit. You know, you're part of a bad organization. This, that, and the other. I'm like, wait a minute, what changed 3 days before George Floyd about me? You know, the same guy that coached your kids, the same guy that helped pay your mortgage when you couldn't pay it, the same guy that got you homeless help. You know, what changed? You know, so there's a climate, and then there's the real person. And I think
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
CJ, I'm listening to you, and I feel you. I'm gonna ask this. I think what changes, we're going through a cultural revolution. So just the consciousness of everybody is beginning to question the system, and then you have done such an exemplary job in the agency that you're involved with that went through this. They're the precursor of, cultural change. And I mean, I think they did a decent job in adapting. So the whole thing about community and all of that is already built. That's the model, the standard, I guess, in the policing industry, but now what we all see, we're proud of you. You rising in the ranks, you're representing us well. And then now we're beginning to question the system. And we look at you, our brother, and we say, hey, man, maybe you ought to quit that.
Greg, I totally get that. But the problem is, you got to be careful as to how you question the system. You got to make sure we question the system with facts. Do I believe there have been massive improvements in major cities across the country? Now, speaking in Los Angeles, we are the model. Some of these changes and demands that some of our community members have made, we have already implemented by working with some of these community members. So when it comes to people like myself and my brother and others like me, why would you want us to quit? We're the ones promoting the change that you want. So when people say that, either you care about me that much where you want me to move on and just be CJ full time, or somewhere deep down inside you hate my guts that I chose a profession that many were afraid to choose. So it's twofold for me, and I'm looking at it.
That. Come on, nephew, it's not that.
Listen, you again. I'm looking at it from two dual realities. I've had people walk up to me and tell me this. So for them to say it's not that, I'm living that. That's what sent me into my quit mode. My you know what, my community forgot what the reason why people like me, my brother, and the other African Americans, or people of color got on this job is to make sure that our voices are heard so we can be better. I didn't expect to change the department overnight. I didn't expect it, and it's still not. I mean, it's still not changing overnight. It's a slow moving wheel. But you need African American officers in the system so they can be the model inside the community is how we address. It's funny. Every community has their culture. And when I started, I worked in the Northeast area, and it was a heavy Hispanic and Armenian culture at the time. There was no question that there were many times when we needed an Armenian speaker or needed somebody of the Armenian culture to explain the culture. We had no problem leaning on that. Same thing with the Hispanic community. It was Northeast was mainly Hispanic officers, so it was easy for them to relate to their community. But the frustration for me in the beginning was, how do you have, and now this is back when I got on in the early 90s, the mid 90s. Right. How do you have a gang unit in South LA? I'm keeping it real with you guys, so I bring the human perspective. How do we have a gang unit in the South LA area, right? And all the gang officers are white. When we have an Asian, we had at back then in that area Asian community task force, because the Asian people, they didn't hate police, but they just didn't talk to police. Right, so we had to have an Asian officer lead us in to the Asian community. We had liaisons. We rarely had. They never looked to guys like us for the Black community. In fact, it was like, we got this. You know, we're glad you're here. The attitude was, we're glad you're here. This is my perception, but we got this, you know, and it didn't make any sense, you know, and the only time they would appeal to us is in like churches or stuff like that, you know, to this day, fast forward 2020-ish, when I worked in the mid-city area, if the Jewish community had an issue, there were squad cars all over the place, you know, if, you know, but we would look forward to community events, you know, and that's not service, you know, that is, you know, I call it, this is my perception of it, appeasement. So guys like me, when I worked as a community sergeant, was trying to change that narrative. You know, we are going to provide you service. I'm going to walk into your, and I'm explaining why you guys need brothers like us on the job. I'm going to walk into your church and sit in your service in uniform on Sunday. Well, that triggered relationships. Okay. When there's a use of force and it happens to be a young African-American man and there's a chance to de-escalate, man, you need to understand, you know, you and me, when we let off steam, it takes a minute, you know, hey, let's take our time a little bit with this cat. Let him vent, you know, because when I get mad, here's what I do as a black man. I throw my hands, you know, and that's why I rarely get upset, because I don't want y'all to see that. And, you know, it's like, I'm like, what? You know, it takes me a minute to kind of calm down. You know, well, that's not the time for all of us to raise our chest up and say, oh Lord, let's go get him. You know, it's about to be on. That's the time. Hey, back off, guys. Let this guy blow off a little steam. Every culture has their cultural thing. You know, I didn't say rule. I said cultural thing. And it's so important to have African Americans like myself, my brother, and I can mention others in the community, that the community that engages with the community. Because guess what? There's another truth. I'm not gonna lie to you. There are some that I got a job. That's it. I'm gonna go hide. I'm gonna go just do the bare minimum. But the majority of your black officers are out there, and along with white officers and Hispanic officers, they are doing their darndest to reach out and engage with the community, you know, but it's no different than any other job. There are some people that go above and beyond their job. There are some doctors that go above and beyond. There are some doctors that do the basics and they're jerks, assholes. And then there are some straight up gangster doctors that do malpractice, you know, radio personalities, lawyers, you have that, but I get it. We wear the badge. We have we've been given the authority when needed, if we have to take a life. I get that level of responsibility, you know, but the same human qualities apply. And that's why we have policies that guide us. So if I can explain anything to you guys, is there is a guidance of policies. I once said, I was interviewed, Greg, Spectrum. I don't know if you saw that interview where they came and they interviewed me about use of force. And I said this one thing that friends are still hitting me up about. Yeah, I'm the subject matter expert, African American for use of force. Yeah, it's me, guys. Hello, you know. So be surprised, be proud of that, guys. Be proud of that. I said, and I told them about my life being indoctrinated into hating police just like everybody else, but I needed a job, so LAPD was hiring at the time, so I took it. I was indoctrinated into hating the police, but that dynamic changed when I jumped in, and I said this. Hey. I found that the LAPD, the LA policies or whatever, the police policies in training were cleaner than the Bible. And guess what? Oh my God, my friends were calling me. What did you mean by that? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so let's talk about the Bible here. All right. Yeah. Let's talk about King Solomon. You know, did God love King Solomon? Yeah, he was great, right? But King Solomon had 700 concubines. And you know what? He stepped out of line when he slept with the concubine that wasn't even in his tribe. And God still loved him, right? You know, the Bible's a tough book. There's the 10 Commandments, and then there's your department policies, you know? That's what I meant. And I said it on purpose to promote this conversation that it's not the policy, it's the person, all right? So if we get a guy that people talk about racist cops, oh my God, they're all racist. You should have known. There are people that I'm just now finding out that are diehard Trump supporters. I don't say I want to mean racist, you know, but I'm like, dude, you know, find out when you find out, or you get those calls or those shootings. You see those shooting situations. I bet in some cases that partner was like, I never saw that coming. You know, sometimes it's very rare, but we have cases where it's been investigated, where there's a pattern that officers have provided where in the whatever internal affairs agency has to look under for years, and then they say, aha, I got you. But those things take time. I think we live in a microwave society where we want our officers punished, fired right now. But just like on your job, you get due process. It has to be investigated. Well, guess what? So do officers, you know. And a lot of times, and I ask people, I challenge people to go to Google. There are officers that get fired. There are officers that are in jail right now for crimes that they committed, you know, but we forget because it's so easy to say as a citizen, oh, they never do this, they never do that. And speaking of Chauvin, speaking of Derek Chauvin, everybody's celebrating activists, the attorneys, but nobody's celebrating the police. Let me tell you something, guys. 835 PC is the law of the land. And the only way to get Derek Chauvin in prison for the highest charge that we all wanted, right, was for officers like him to testify. Without that, you would have never gotten the charges that you wanted for Derek Chauvin, because Chauvin was held to the, and I'm educating you guys here.
So yeah, what did you say? 865 PC?
835 APC.
835 APC. What is that?
Oh, okay. So that talks about the objectively, this is Graham versus Connor, which talks about objectively reasonable standard. Okay. When an officer commits a, let's say an excessive force or something like that, or a shooting, they're held to the objectively reasonable standard. And that means in a nutshell that when verdicts are handed down or discipline or whatever, and when they do something, it's not based on hindsight. It's not based on the understanding of a citizen. And you guys, I'm challenging you guys, type that up in your chat, 835 APC, and I want you guys to read it, okay? Because I want to give you homework. I don't just like throw in all the answers. Please just take, if you research it, Greg, go for it, and then you can read it for yourself, the bullet points of that law. He was charged based on what another reasonable officer at the time would do. And guess what? We had, I believe we had an officer out from the Los Angeles area testify. We had.
I was going to ask you, did you know him?
Yes, and you know what? Bravo. Only thing I'm jealous about, I'm looking like, wait a minute, I'm the use of force, you know, but that's here nor there. Whatever. I thought that was me, but it's good. I love my brother. He did a good job. Minnesota officer. You had the Minnesota chief. All of those. It took all of those guys to say no. If I was not in that situation, I would not do that. That is what got Derek Chauvin, and even the attorney, the prosecutor said that on his press conference. It was technically, I'm not saying it was us. Yeah. The only way legally you would have got Derek Chauvin. Hang on, sorry. Only legal way you would have got Derek Chauvin is you needed officers to step up and do that. And you know what? It's funny. I wish somebody would have called me. I would have been out there. You know, oh, you got it up. All right.
Yeah. So this is it. So this is the 835 APC. And it talks about chapter 5 says arrest by whom and how made. Says the authority to use physical force conferred on peace officers by this section is a serious responsibility that shall be exercised judiciously and with respect for human rights and dignity and for the sanctity of every human life. The legislature further finds and declares that every person has a right to be free from excessive use of force by officers acting under the color of law.
Yes. Keep reading.
Okay. As set forth below, it is the intent of the legislature that peace officers use deadly force only when necessary in defense of human life.
Yes.
In determining whether deadly force is necessary, officers shall evaluate each situation in light of the particular circumstances of each case and shall use other available resources and techniques if reasonably safe and feasible to an objectively reasonable officer.
Stop right there. Now go to number 4, because that's what I'm talking. I need you guys to understand the law, because we tend to argue on emotion. But the reason why, what I like to do, I'll read number 4. Can I do that, Greg?
Okay. Yes, sir. Go write it.
The decision by peace officers to use force shall be evaluated from the perspective of a reasonable officer in the same situation. based on the totality of the circumstances known to or perceived by the officer at the time, rather than the benefit of hindsight. That means like Monday morning quarterback. We can't judge it based on, oh, well, he shoulda, coulda, woulda, what happened at that time. And the totality of the circumstances that account for occasions when officers may be forced to make quick judgments or split-second judges about using force. So thanks, Ray. I wanted to put that out there to you guys to understand that without with the George Floyd Derek Chauvin trial, because it wasn't a George Floyd trial, it was the Derek Chauvin
trial. That's right. Amen.
They needed officers like me. Officers like the Steiger, the gentleman that went out there, my buddy. They needed guys from Minnesota to say, they even needed RAs and fire departments to say, no, we wouldn't do that. Okay. So we're held at the objectively reasonable standard of another officer. And and now with the facts, I tell my friends, we can still be upset, but now we have the facts. So people wonder why when we see police incidents and people come to me, why aren't you mad like I am? Well, first of all, I'm trying not to get mad. You know, I need a couple of days to survey all of the facts. If I react too soon and the officer was right in that case, I'm hurting that officer's case. It's their due process. We kind of, especially me, I have to wait. You know, I have to wait until all the facts are gathered or the case is adjudicated before I emote, because up until then, I can hurt an officer's case in Kentucky. He might have done everything right, but the initial body cam video that was shown from the media only showed you a 5-second clip. But there you see the whole thing, like, oh, well, cool, I would have made the same decision. Man, my emotions didn't help or hurt the case. Now, in George Floyd's case, it was so easy. This is what I mean, Greg, by this was the easiest time for the community and law enforcement to come together and say, all of us don't want that, you know. But what happened was an agenda set in where it was like, oh, the city's in trouble. What do we do? Let's blame it on the police. All right. Sure. And LA and Minnesota, they train, and Long Beach, they all train at the same academy. Yeah. Oh, that's it. They're all the bad guy. Why? My opinion. Now, listen, law enforcement agencies get defunded all the time. Guys, that's not new. First, I need you to know that. Every 5-10 years ago, we go through fiscal budget crises with the city. Okay. Yeah. Now, this time, with the homeless initiatives and everything that's going on in the cities and counties and everything like that, you know, maybe there's like a lot of money wasted out there, you know? So we had to move some things around, you know, that was, in my opinion, that was all coming around anyway, which that season anyway. But in order to appease the public, this is a guy that lived it, to appease the public, let's say it's because of bad policing. You police officers are bad, therefore we're going to defund you. That'll teach you, that'll make you better. But Greg, let me ask you guys, and for those of you who are listening, I'm the CEO of, let's just say I'm the CEO of Apple. Would I defund myself to make myself better? And I'm competing with IBM, and I'm competing with what's the other, Mac or whatever, with the opposite. Would I defund my employees from doing their work to save money and reallocate when I've got IBM over here kicking butt? No way. With the iPhone and Samsung, would I defund Samsung while I'm competing with Apple? We need the funds to continue the training. Well, you know, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Well, let me tell you something about Joe Biden. Joe Biden and President Barack Obama and President Biden were the authors of 21st century policing. And please look at all the 6 of the pillars of 21st century policing. It was big on community engagement. We were funded to understand and learn community and get better, even better at community engagement. We were funded at making the job safer for police officers. The promotion of funding came with them. So I don't know what they're talking about now, the current administration, you know, but I remember they're still the author of what got us funded. And the funding was all about how we can do better. Why would you want to defund that? Now, to some of my teacher friends, they were excited. Well, because we're getting money, you know. I'm like, okay, I understand that. Okay, get it. You know, that's how it works. I'm okay with that. But to sit back on the narrative that I'm a demon, I'm a devil, therefore take that and see what happens. Well, right? Let's just say right or wrong, because everybody has their opinion. What happened? You pulled these officers out of these schools. Let me give you the reality, and this is why I like to speak on my own, representing myself. Okay, all right. You can Google me and find out. Well, but if you take you take police out of the schools, and that happened, Greg, something happens in a school right now. It's going to be. How long is 2 minutes when you're going into a fight? How long is 2 minutes when somebody walks into your school, and starts capping off rounds? That's a pretty long response time, okay? And when they talked about moving these police officers out of school, you know who they never talked to? They never talked to the kids. They never even talked to half the teachers. And my wife's a teacher, by the way. And she's freaked out because they were the ones that developed relationships. I never heard of any controversial school police, shooting. They were doing their jobs. I worked with them when I worked mid-city. So why would you take them out? Narratives. Go for it, Greg.
I can't help but reflect, CJ, when I'm listening to you and I'm fascinated. I'm hanging on every word, I'm just, I'm feeling you 100%. But you're not the officer that the people are speaking against. It's not you. I'm looking at you and I'm listening to you and I'm feeling you like to the nth of my heart, right? But I'm saying, but it's not you.
Well, let me ask you this. Crime, and let's just call it what it is in our community. And I'm talking about us as a family. We family guy. Our Black communities, crime is high, and Greg, it's not you, Greg. It's those gangbangers, man. It's not you, brother. But guess what races through your head right now? But wait a minute, my mom's not a gang member. Wait a minute, my wife is not a gang member. Wait a minute, my kids are good kids. Greg, it's not me. Listen, I haven't pulled the trigger in 25 years of my life. I came close on 3 occasions. And you know what that means? There are thousands of officers that I work with around me that do the same thing. So don't wrap your around. I call it the I don't consider myself a hero. I'll say hero complex. Oh, CLeon and Dion, them too. But wait a minute. We talk about Dion and Skid Row, right? He's legendary for Skid Row. As a matter of fact, I got his paper. I proudly hang on the wall. He couldn't do that by himself. Now he's the promoter. And I will say that to the hill. He's changing how we do police work as his walk. But it took officers with him in safer organizations like Safer City and groups like that to help him with that. He didn't do it by himself. Now he is the promoter. He is the leader. He is the face of it. But it took a captain. It took a captain to give him permission to do that. Now captains, because captains rotate out. It took a chief. It took a police chief to say, "Go, Dion, go. Keep going." So when you say, "Oh, it's not you,"
Parks.
Yeah, well, no, not Parks.
Okay.
I'm talking about the current chief. I'm talking for him. I'm talking about and including Parks because he was working Skid Row around that time.
Okay, so look, I would want to give you. All right, yes, I went out. I toured Skid Row with RoboCop. Mr. Dion, a good guy. He has the respect of the streets. Now just keeping it real. You're not RoboCop on Skid Row without having earned some respect among the bad element that could be out there now. Come on now.
That is a 20-year body of work. I can count. I can count more Dion Josephs that the light hasn't been shined upon. Trust me on that. There are our community senior lead officers that is their role to develop these relationships with the homeless population. Now, there are homeless crises in the Venice Beach area. There are a couple of officers I know, senior lead officers, I can tell right off the bat in Pacific and Wilshire area, because that's a growing homeless population, that were doing wonders out there. Now, guess what? The media light is, they're not as eloquent as a Dion Joseph is. He was made for this scene and we all celebrate that. I'm made for my scene. But some of these officers don't want to be seen, and that's okay. You all need to understand that I'm fam. I'm from your communities, and I'm telling you, I had this one perception myself, just like you guys, before I became a police officer. to when I stepped over and got a job because I needed a job. Guys, I didn't want to be a police officer. I hated the police. But during the recession in 1990, early 1990s, nobody was hiring. My restaurant business closed down and they hired me. I got on and realized, oh my God, what came out of my academy experiences, it wasn't the policies. It was the people. And then I'm so proud to look now from 1996 to 2020, 21, as we go into 2022, how we've evolved. I'm the first one to say it'll never be perfect. But guys, in the LA area, guys, we are in a good space. You know, I didn't say perfect space because there are some jerks out there, still some jerks that we have to deal with. And you know what? There are checks and balances. Like, you are the ones that promoted body cams. Guess what? It's working for you, but it's also working for us. It's showing that we were doing our jobs.
So that's what I'm saying. Your agency is like the standard for, you know, for reform, you know, in the whole scheme of things, because of your history and what you've already gone through and been analyzed, taken apart, put back together and all that. And, you know, I'm listening to you that, okay, let me just, again, here's the thing. You're the use of force expert. You didn't get to that without having some tussles and stuff out there on these here streets. Let's just like really keep it real. So like when I contrast looking at you, I would hate, man, CJ, you scare me, brother. When you look at that a buff little officer that know how to take it down. But here's the thing, you're reasonable though. In that law that you shared with us earlier, the key word in the phrasing was reasonable officer. And so you're reasonable. It's the unreasonable ones that seem to be in abundance in these days and time.
The key word is seem to be in abundance. Now with social media and the looping of videos, you think it's an epidemic. It's not. It's not. Now it's upsetting. It needs to be dealt with. We don't run from that. But really, I mean, come on. I remember, I'm not going to say names because I don't want to, when this narrative of black cops killing kids, this one activist said, every 5 seconds, a black man is shot. And I sat there and I sat next to him and I looked at him and I said, let me pull out my calculator here. Every 5 seconds. We'd all be dead. Matter of fact, 5 seconds, I should be dead. You know, we got to stop talking like that. You know, I mean, when 46 million African Americans, all right, 220, like this is, I believe these were 2020 stats, around 220 altercations where someone was shot of African American, 220. 41 of those unarmed, meaning could have had a weapon, unsure, and just a very few where it was like we have these worldwide crises where we're upset about. The numbers, when you look at it, we're all being played by a narrative. I want the same thing you want. I don't want to work with a partner that has the potential to cause harm to citizens unduly. And that's why we all came together, community officers, and developed the law to intercede. See, we've been doing that. We've been de-escalating, but now these things are all signed into law, now mandated, right? It's there. So now you have that. So what happens when we get what we want? Do we stay mad? I mean, and in my community, I hold on to things for a long time, you know, but wait a minute. We set all these checks and balances now. Now the next level, guys, is to give it time and reflect on how this is. Let's assess 2 years from now. Let's reassess and see if this is working now. This is how we starting the conversation to work together. I understand the historical perspective. Man, let me tell you, I joined an agency that is famous and infamous. But like you said, we're leading the charge to get ahead of it the other way around. And I do want our citizens to like get back to appreciating where it's at. I didn't say like, I didn't say love. I didn't come on this job to be loved. I came on because I didn't see enough. I needed a job. And then I didn't see enough of people that look like me to help my agency understand the whole of the community. There are people that
CJ, help me understand. When did you come in? When did you come in?
I came on the job in 1996. This is like
so after the civil unrest. Okay.
Yes, post OJ, post civil unrest. So I was at Cal State Long Beach. I was a part of the student union, African American Black student union back there. I was indoctrinated into hating law enforcement. Just like if there wasn't a Black Lives, I would be the Black Lives Matter social message back then. You know, we had that. It was strong. Watched all the movies, Do the Right Thing, Radio Raheem, watched him get choked out, all that stuff before, you know, needing a job and getting hired. So that's when I came in. I came in thinking there was, oh man, when they get in, somebody told me, well, yeah, brother, when you get to the academy, they're going to hook you to a brainwashing machine. Yeah, and they're going to brainwash you. They're going to teach you how to this, that, and the other.
It's like joining the Marines. That's what they say.
Yeah, well, Greg, you know what I'm saying? You joined the Marines, and this is a shared conversation. I mean, you're military. They called us quasi-military, which we need to talk about that. I mean, that kind of needs to kind of dissipate a little bit. But Marines got you to be where you're at, a director, radio host. You can do whatever you want because of the discipline that you receive. Well, you know what? That was mine. That 6 months in the academy changed my life. This good kid with so much going on in his head, frontal lobe developed. It provided a structure and a policy structure, not just for the department. It provided a structure for the rest of my life because I'm one of the top, forget it. I'm the best fitness trainer in the South Bay. I'm the most sought after. Who do I have to blame or thank for? I have to blame the conditioning and the discipline that I developed and the people skills that I developed working in communities to get to this point to where I can relate to my people here. I have no freaky issues going on in my gym. My business is top rated. FICO score is off the chain because of the way I've conducted myself over the years with the policies taught within my agency. It started here. Good parents.
That's
Margie,
right.
Go for it. Thank you, man.
I mean, it's just really, really interesting to listen to you and your, understand your perspective. And like, I go back a little bit. Okay. So we went through Rodney King and all of that. And I remember, the agency began examining itself, significant change in leadership. And then, so you came along when they began to like recruit, because you were on the posters back in the day. I remember.
Well, I was this. Now it's like
and what was the sister's name? The other
Britt. I remember her. Britt. She just retired. Britt Nicholson. What's up?
Yeah. See, you guys were that was the new generation and the changing face of your agency. So I'm seeing where you came from, because it was a rough time, bro. But when Rodney King happened, it was off the chain.
Well, you know what, Greg? When I came on, we called it each generation of law enforcement has a name. When I came on, it was called the generation of tolerance. And tolerance at this time used to be like the great buzzword. I can tolerate.
Yeah, I remember.
But how sick is that, right? So we were taught tolerance, Later on, now it's like, hey, forget this tolerance word. Gay, straight, doesn't matter. Trans, whatever. You belong here. If that's happening internally, the public needs to understand how that trust permeates from intrinsic to extrinsically. Man, there are people from our LGBT community leading the charge. There are let's say there are Cleon Josephs who are LGBT. There are Hispanic. There's a Hispanic Cleon Joseph out there. His name is John, man. This brother's awesome. What he's doing for the youth in his community is amazing. I get showcased. I can point you, if the media just decided, Cleon, give me 5 more officers that we can put a camera on. I can give you 20, and there are a lot more, but there are some amazing community things that this defunding narrative wanted to take away. I'm asking you guys, listen, I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. Law enforcement does not solve crime. Law enforcement does not kill crime. If that was the case, then David in the Bible would have had better success with God behind his back, and people still committed crimes, right? You're not going to stop what we are. When we're effectively working with the community, we bring crime down. What we are at best with a community not working with us are a great deterrent. So if my car is parked and I decide to have my lunch on the hood of my car at a crime park, guess what happens to the crime element? It dissipates, allowing your kid to go to school. You talk about taking cops away, not even being close to campuses. Well, just before the George Floyd incident, we had this safe passage day where we formed lines and actually walked kids to school. You're going to tell me now we're going to change the narrative because you're bad now. Kids walk. I had an officer in my community unit that disclosed to me that he would take a gangbanger's kids to school because they were afraid that the other gang would shoot their kids. You know what I call that? I call that police, good community police relations. There is an element where we can work together. We got to get to the crux of what it is. And Greg, the shootings are one thing. These violent shootings that they keep looping and looping, by the way, type in Google white men getting shot by police officers. And if you watch that every day, it would balance your satisfaction, right? This is a big false narrative. Not false narrative, it's a hyper narrative that's not helping anybody.
All right. So, but check it out. All this good stuff that you are doing, I keep saying, so you see, you guys are the standard for this police reform. And it sounds like the good stuff needs to be evangelized to other systems across the country, because this is what we're seeing. We don't see, some of these forces are made up of the unreasonable ones, and I think that's what you see when you look at it from a macro standpoint. I mean,
choice of words, macro.
Yeah.
Let me say this.
Keep it real. I mean, because you're what we need guarding our streets. Now, how do we evangelize your perspectives across this country?
Well, let's say this. It's been happening. Do you know that I train officers? And I've been since I was a self-defense instructor for the department in 2000s. We train people from all over the country, all over the state. We still do. We teach de-escalation all over the country. Now, listen, there are giving credit to other major agencies. See, this is the thing, and this is the frustrating thing for me. First of all, we all don't train in the same academy. First of all, just like any aspect in life, I remember my mom told me, yeah, Clee, once you get past California, it's a different world out there. If we all focus in on our bubble, that's a realistic thing to do. Mm-hmm. That will permeate in itself. Now, I'm not just talking about law enforcement. I'll give you an example. Let's use the politician Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell can say whatever he wants to satisfy his constituents because he knows he's not going anywhere. There's nothing I can do here in California to change a guy. Let's just say if that's a bad guy to you, I don't want to talk politics, to change Mitch McConnell. I can't hurt him in his job because his constituents love what they say. It's a culture within self. I can't go to Kentucky and say, hey, I don't want guys walking around with guns anymore. Mm-hmm. That's a pro-Second Amendment state. Well, what is it? Why did that white guy get shot? Well, because it's normal for those guys to walk around with their guns slinged around them. It ain't normal out here. So I want the community to think like that. What is your city doing here in California that you want to see? How do you guys work with that?
Wait, CJ, honestly.
Go ahead.
The guy that walked up past the police right in the middle of the riot with a weapon.
Oh no, there's a
come on, CJ. If I'm that guy, that same guy, same circumstance, I'm gone.
Yeah, if you're that, but if you're that guy, again, when I just said earlier, my mom said, when you leave out California, it's different. Think of what's the right standard ground law. The standard ground. I was just talking to an officer friend of mine on LinkedIn from Florida, and I said, look, the standard ground law is pretty interesting, but it doesn't work for people like me. And he said, you're absolutely right. You're right. We're talking about racism, which things are in every microcosm of society. 250,000 malpractice, 200,000 plus malpractice lawsuits done by doctors in communities like ours for not caring. Okay, but nobody's yelling defund doctors. Okay, I had a client. This doctor just left my gym right now. One of the best, smartest guys in the world. So how do I walk up to him? Oh, you guys are fucked up. Excuse me, Greg. You guys are all jacked up. Oh God, no, because guess what? When I get sick, I don't care if the guy hates my guts. Cut me, get this thing out of me, doc. Right. So if you need help and you're about to get raped, or you're about to get beat up, or you're in school about to get bullied by a bunch of gangs, and there is no, dude, who are you gonna call? Because your teachers can't put your hands on you. The security guard can't even put their hands on you. They got laws and rules there. So who are you gonna call? That's gonna help you right there. So I'm just saying, yes, we can talk about the racial inequity. We can talk about that. I can talk about racial inequity in the levels of how many blacks are on the job department and not. But is that racial inequity, or is that our people discouraging us from getting that job? Guys, you want to answer? And Greg, I feel like I'm taking over, but I got to get this truth out. And thank you for letting me. Guys, we as African Americans, when we have ever had success in anything, we infiltrate it. Okay. When we wanted the bus to ride to sit on the front of the bus, we all stopped. Okay. If you want police work to work like you think it should work, you need to flood the system with people like you. Guys, if I could put a pitch for recruitment, because I used to be a recruiter, and they would hate me, my pitch for recruiting African Americans. Hey, if you want to get bumped from poor to the middle class, get this job. Because you know what? That's good incentive. All right.
Right. So I'm just saying, I got it. But you're not. It's not you. I have to go back to that. It's not you. It's the other ones in there, the unreasonable ones. I mean, you got it. You joined this thing. Same thing with me. I joined the military. My father was in the Navy before me, and it was all about. And I went in right after Vietnam, so it's not like when they say thank you for your service now. That's for my generation of veteran. That's like, dang, for real. I mean, because we weren't like back in that generation and time, but you're also raised up to say, okay, we're going to go into this system and we're going to make changes. We have to be present within that system to make changes. I get what you're saying is we want you inside of the force in order to effect the changes that we need and make the world a better place and relationships in the community a better place. So, but I don't think the ire of the community, CJ, is, to me, I hear you and I feel your stress, but I'm like, it's not you though that we're shouting at.
and I'm not stressing about it. I'm just joking with you, but okay, let me turn it around to you, Greg.
Yeah.
You served in the military. Now, publicly, you guys, I'm just saying, the public perception of the military is, you guys, thank you for your service, Veterans Day, Memorial Day. I see you guys, we honor you guys and whatever. But you know what? I know you. I know that you've worked with black, white, and different. You've seen crazy in the military barracks. You've seen crazy during you can point. Look at you, Rolling. Look at you. So why am I not saying to you, it's not you, it's the other guys? Listen, I know it's the other guy. I know it's that you don't want that type. I don't want that type either. But the reality is, what I want my public to be confident about is there are checks and balances like never before to eventually get these guys. Our body cam footages are reviewed daily. And guess what? I don't think you even know this. I'm not just like us. Oh, he's a use of force instructor. Yeah, thanks. No, I get called to use of force reviews. I get called to border rights. There are two due to my testimonial that are gone right now. But that's just you, CJ. Wait a minute. The sergeants before me who were white, testified, and officers were fired because of their actions. Okay. What I'm saying is, I give you all the credit in the world for what you've done, but I'm human enough to know that there are some military guys that did some horrible, horrible things, historically, right? I mean, America itself, right? But it's not enough for me to say, it's not just you, Greg. I honor what you've done and anyone that's served in the military, but I also honor anyone that's worn that badge because they're doing something that they're being paid to do something that no one else would do. Now, in both saying that, in saying both worlds, we need to. There's no question, and look at me, guys. Look at me, all right. And don't just because it's you, CJ. Here it is. The difference between my brother and I and the others. We decided to take a risk and begin articulating it. Okay. Yes, I don't want that type too. I seek out that type to correct, or if needed be, provide expertise as to why this person should not be working through our policies. Okay. That's what I do. If let's just use Dion again, moving so massively that people believe in it, and there are white and black Hispanics and commanders that are following that, like, okay, that's where we need to go. Let's celebrate that instead of saying, you guys, No, because like I said earlier, there are plenty of others that deserve that same light. They just don't, the camera either hasn't shown on them yet, or they just don't need it. When they're done, they're done. Listen, I'd love to have it, Greg, to where I just do my 10, 12 hours, whatever, go home and turn off. And I thought I could until this George Floyd social injustice thing happened. Well, I said, you know what? I could either give up or I can start having these community conversations, and I'm better off talking like this, representing myself, because it ain't no secret. Google me, you'll find what I do and where I'm at, but I'm freer to have these conversations than worrying about, like, am I saying this right or that right, or am I saying it like they want? At the end of the day, when I'm done talking, well, thank you. I'll take the win afterwards. We'll take the win together as a community.
Well, I really enjoy just listening. I'm fascinated today, just hearing your perspective and just, kind of flowing with you. And, brother, I'm with you, but, so let's just know that things have to change, they just have to change, I suppose. What's the future now? I mean, after we're going through this COVID pandemic, all this unprecedented time. And like you say, we do see more crime on the streets. We see, Lord knows how the people are going to be, as we come out of, people are losing their minds, what I think, but stuffed in the house all the time. So society is changing right before our very eyes. What's the future of law enforcement, and what's the future for you, CJ?
The future for law enforcement is this, and our community. The future in law enforcement lies in our community cooperation. I need you all. I need us all to, now that we're out of the pandemic, I need us all to get out of our silos. And you'll be surprised if you take your church to a community police station. You'd be surprised on what they'll open the doors for you to do. The academy, I work in the academy, and we are opening our doors to certain community events, so they can see that we don't teach people how to kick people in the head when they're down. We don't teach people the future. Let's tell you what the future is right now. Building these community, opening our doors even more than what we have been doing, and we've been doing a good job. To have these conversations. Police work will never be sexy. It will never be where, listen, we're all American citizens, Greg, and none of us like to get stopped right or wrong and detained or whatever, whatnot. We're dealing with terms now called procedural. We're leaning on procedural justice. There's a term called spirit of the law versus letter of the law. The letter of the law is like, man, everybody that runs that stop sign, I'm giving everybody a ticket because just because I can, right? The spirit of the law said, you know what? Would a conversation help? We're moving towards that. There's never been like quotas in our agency. And when they tried, the officers sued and won millions for people trying to make them have quotas. But now it's turned, you guys didn't know that, did you? Right? Well, we don't have quotas, right? In the LA area, But the idea is, does everything have to go to arrest? Does everything have to be, or can we listen to each other and say, and let the officer decide, you know what? Hey, I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this pressure to get all these numbers. Man, can I let this one go? We're talking about minor stuff. I'm not talking about robbing a bank. I'm not letting you go. You're going to jail, son. For real, because I'm not talking about the drug victim. I'm talking about the drug dealer. And then I don't even want the drug dealer. I want who the drug dealer is working for, because that's the real enemy of our community. That's the future of law enforcement. The future of law enforcement, guys, is a partnership between you and I. I want you to trust me on this, because it happened. We had a church in Mid-City area literally march up to our community police station at the time just to pray with the watch commander. They called me because I was a senior lead sergeant and told me, and I was crying. So I went to that church and sat in their service. We developed an immediate relationship. You know what? They got all the patrol they needed, then some. It wasn't because you did this for me, I did this for you. It's because we fostered this culture of relationships. I didn't say love and we'll never come to all understanding because you never walked in my shoes. I walked in yours. Greg, I walked in yours as a black man. I've never walked in yours as a military, so I can't speak on that. But I can speak on being a black man, like you and a law enforcement officer. And I can tell you, saying hello. Here's an example. I get out of the car, I pull you over. Rightfully so. Let's say no U-turn, you ran the U-turn. And in my mind, you know what? That guy looked like he was in a hurry. Let me just talk to him. And as I approach your car, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is "fuck you, officer." How am I supposed to? Now, I'm not saying that's not going to lead to a shooting or anything, but you're getting a ticket, right? And if it gets crazier, it's going to get crazier, you know. But then at the same time, go home and tell the public I'm scared of the police. Stop it. Stop it, guys. If you're willing to throw rocks and bottles and cuss us out, come on. Now, there are concerns that we need to address, and the only way we're going to address it is the future of policing. To answer your question, is twofold. Start promoting us to infiltrate. If I got to use a buzzword, to infiltrate this job. If we can bring from 11% to 14%, that's a win for us. But don't we got to flood the system with people that look like us. That's the tangible one. The other tangible issue is us communicating. Let me tell you the difference between a white and black community. White people, white culture, generally in the areas I've worked that were white areas, if you didn't look right, they were going to call the police on you. Right, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, because that's how bad they wanted their streets clean. They wanted that police presence, but you can't. But in the community, it's like, oh, we don't want the police over here. You know, well, how do we expect to deter crime? How do we help point to the right?
But CJ, that same white person, I might be walking through their neighborhood, and just because I'm a black man, they don't, you know. Now I got to deal with the officers.
No, Greg, no, I get that. We're not talking about that. The point I'm illustrating is that you have a community that will call the police at the drop of a dime to keep their community safe. We're not talking about we can have an hour conversation with the Becky's. Yeah. I'm not talking. I understand that. I don't want to talk about that. I talk about how communities are successful. Those people, for whatever fear or whatever, and I shouldn't put that tag on them either. They want to come home and pull into their garage and know that they're okay. Okay. So they call us at the drop of a dime, and that presence will keep that area, you know. But we wait till it gets extreme. We don't try to develop that community bond. Let's have this town hall meeting. By the way, let me have Sergeant such and such here to talk about this, that, and the other. That's how you continue to create the presence so we all get to know each other. You know what I hate? I hated when I was a watch commander where I was at. And then we have these days and we have outside units come in because we're chasing the radio. We're so spread out. And there's a crime area that needs to be addressed. And we use a unit from outside. Now, I love it because they're a deterrent, but they don't know the community like my guys. You know what I'm saying? So problems, you know what I'm saying? So, and we can get into the weeds of that, but I'm giving you guys the tangible strategy for us working together. You know, you want resources if we start really forcing ourselves to work together. I know officers are doing it on our end. I know we are, you know, but I need our community side to stop being so silent, stop being so focused on your work and paying the bills, to take some time out to bring your son to a police station. You know, I had a lady actually bring her son to the station, and she goes, "Who's a watching man?" So I came out, it was me. You know, I just want my son to sit in your chair. So I opened the door, kid sat in my chair. I said, "You're a watch commander for 30 minutes. So I went in, was handling cards and stuff. Man, it made that kid's world. But the biggest thing, now I know that kid's face. So when he goes up and I see him and my friends, oh, who is that guy? Oh, hey, that's Kenny. He lives over there on 40. Man, bro, my peeps. That's what we need. Better training for officers. I'm an advocate for training officers in arts like jujitsu that don't require punching. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've been doing jujitsu for years, MMA for years. And that's what I teach to make it look less violent, so we don't have to worry about things like use of forces that look bad, that even maybe justifiable but look bad because the guys are punching. So we're talking about that. You know, I'm working on negotiations with a couple of jiu-jitsu brands. I definitely want to endorse one, but I can't right now. But we are already heading in the right direction. We are being refunded because the stats have already proved that this defunding thing did not work. So with that said, some of that good training that you guys asked in Joe Biden's 21st century policing model, regardless of what they're saying now, is back. And it's big on community. But there's something missing. You, the community. Now, I'm trying to help. I am taking a risk every time I come out and speak like this. And I worry about saying the wrong thing, but you know what? I don't care. When I retire, I never want to see a police station again. But you know what? It would be nice to see a sheriff car roll by my block from time to time. Do I want to stop and pull over? No. You know, I want them there to determine the elements.
All right. Here's real quickly, CJ. Here's a viewer question: what's happening around the community, around the country, where there's so many abusive officers are getting into communities of color? So you have all this good stuff that you're talking about. What is happening around the country?
Again, we're not denying that still when stuff pops up, like with the element of Lean, I'm gonna answer your question in just a second. Let me get the first one. Here's the thing. With what social media and videos have done is a good thing. It's exposed what we all need to see, but then when people take an agenda, they can loop videos over and they can find something over again. Or here's the one thing that happens a lot of times, they'll show a use of force. There's this guy, Sean King. He loves showing uses of forces like right at the use of force. And he stops right there and everybody's mad. But then a week later, and this is the fault of the departments, they decide to show the whole video and they were like, oh, I would have done the same thing. We all have to be careful. I don't know. I can't speak for New York. I can't speak for your town, for wherever you're listening from, whoever you might be in another. My challenge to you is your best offense is getting your community into these stations and demanding community meetings, showing your face. That's a start. That's the best you can do. When it comes to self-protection, to keep yourself being a part of a video, right? And then, if that's your neck of the woods and it's like that, please, when I say this word, every time I say this word, people get mad. Compliance, right? Oh no, I'm American. I comply. What? The slave talk. No. I want you all, no matter if you have a good agency working around you or whether you have a bad agency working around you, compliance gets you home to fight it later. Now, I was taught that. I don't know what we're teaching our kids now. I was taught that by my parents a long time ago. When the police pulled me over, she said, the first thing is you give them respect. You know, so when they pull me over, I put my hands where they need to be. I answer the questions and I don't move I don't have to do that. I can be cool and chill, but I choose to do that to charm and de-escalate myself so they can calm the hell down, because I've dealt with a few jerks. And had I not stayed calm, I probably would have been that kid that got my ass whooped. So I'm trying to get our people now on the defensive side, because I love y'all. I love y'all. I want you all to get back to being smart. Don't use compliance as this bad thing as we're trying to restrict you. Use the same street logic as if Pookie had a gun on you. Would you just try to fight Pookie? No. You would, whatever, hey, dude, whatever. You know, whatever. What do you want? Here's my wallet, whatever. You know what? If that's your logic, then if you're that scared, then the same logic. Now, if you're not scared, just go off being the habit of being respectful and staying calm. With body cameras, the evidence speaks for itself now. So if I'm being calm and that cop's being a jerk, that is going to show evidence, you know. But if I'm seeing on that video, oh, fuck you, officer, oh, I'll kick your ass, whatever. You don't have to stop me. I'm going to call out sharpie, whatever. And then the officer's like, damn, you put this guy in a position where he's got to cite you. And if you want to get out the car, he's got to get you out of the car. He can, because legally he has a right to. Once you're detained, you're detained. So to answer your question, I want our people to, let's get back to being not just street smart, not just common sense, respect smart. Let's get back to being smart. So if you can think of it from a self-protection level, or you can think of it from as, you know what, if I want the best out of this engagement, I got to be respectful, because still to this day I get pulled over. And my method is always the same. I'm not shaking like, oh my God, I'm concerned, not for my life, but now like, okay, here's this new engagement. Okay, Clee, what are the principles that you were taught? Stay calm. Yes, officer. All right, cool. Is there anything, officer? Go ahead. So, Lean says, I live in a white community. The only LE we see in our neighborhoods. Oh, however, I have their number. If our outside our community, if I run into rogue dude, listen, it comes back to the survival question. You do what you got to do. You know, I'm not, and then doing what you got to do doesn't mean like fight back and you're only going to make it worse. The best strategy is, and I got to come up with another word because people hate the word compliance. The best strategy is just be smart. You know what I did? With Willina? I think that's her name. You know what I did with my daughter when she just got her driver's license a year ago? And I took her through 3 or 4 scenarios right here at my gym. I pretended to pull her over. and I played out a few scenarios. The first scenario was the perfect cop, the cop that you want. Hey, because and for you guys listening out of the country, here's what I want you to want, okay? This is the cop that I want stopping me. Hello, I'm Sergeant CLeon Joseph. The reason why I stopped you is because I pulled you over for the stop sign. Don't you want to know that? That's part one. That's the first officer I played. Hey, can I have your driver's license? Yes, you can reach over there and grab. I played that scenario. The second scenario, it got a little worse. The second scenario I played with my daughter, and it's not because I want her walking around fearful of police. Come home, right? So it's like the same thing my parents did for me. I walked up, hey, give me your driver's license, you know? And the goal was not for her to fight me back. The goal was to teach her how to stay calm through it. Then it got worse. The third traffic stop, I walked up to her. You could get this guy. Hey, get out of the car. Sit on the curb. You know what she did? She got out of the car, sat on the curb. But you know what I taught her to do after that? Sir, can you have a supervisor respond? Sir, can I have your business card? If not, as you drive off, I write down your plate and I go. Here's the problem with us. I don't mean us, and I don't mean this in a stereotypical way. When we have a bad incident with law enforcement, we like to go home and vent and tell the church about it. But then the first question I always ask is, what did you do about it afterwards? If you did nothing afterwards, then you're stewing in a stress that you don't need. You need to call that at that station. And if you don't need to do that, you need to go get an attorney if you need to. Guys, you have rights, and even if it never goes your way, there's nothing worse when a cop is like, please, such and such put a complaint on me again. Man, in most agencies, that's a 6-month investigation. And that cop's got to wear that jacket. I'm not promoting y'all to start, these are the tools that you have. And even if sometimes a lot of them come back unfounded because after I watch the body cam, I'm like, okay, the officer, come on, you did run the stop sign. It shows right here, But, sometimes when it goes bad, we deal with it that way too. Hey, the officer can get, just like any other job, they can get the extreme fired, right? There are some cops in jail, job. They can get reprimanded, sent to training, or suspended, right? So it's just like any other job. But if you don't do anything afterwards and just sit on your anger, that's the thing that's unhealthy, okay? And it's never a perfect, I wish I could tell you it was all a perfect process. And I've been in it for 25 years. You're dealing with a system of humans, okay? You're dealing with and you've been in the radio industry for years, Greg. And I know, you can tell your public right now, you've had some grandiose ideas that would have worked had they listened to you. And they did.
Sir.
See, because or years later, they might even sneak it in and say, hey, we'll do that thing Greg suggested. That's life. When you work for it's a slow moving wheel. People want to move in the right direction, but how we're smart is how it's wuxia, it's jujitsu. I live my life on the terms of jujitsu. I take what is given, I absorb it, and I fight back to get my angles. And the fight back is, number one, let me get home and get to home base so I can begin my fight. If you don't do that, then really, shame on you, And like I said, I know I can speak strongly for here because the further you move west, it's different, right? But you guys that are struggling out there in, I don't know, Natchitoches, Louisiana, and and there is a Natchitoches, by the way, because that's where my dad's from. So I'm not making it.
Right.
And that agency is just out of control. When I went to Louisiana, the first person that I ran was an auntie that said, hey, here are the rules. I need you to listen to those people because it's about going home. I'm not saying this is a rosy picture perfect world of law enforcement. I'm telling you there's a model here that is doing it right, that people from agencies are coming to get this information. Okay.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. You're the kind of the standard. And I would think that.
Stop saying me. Stop saying me.
Well, I'm saying y'all.
Someone, Willeen's friend.
She's coming from a long
family, 2 generations. Many times, family felt safer in the streets than in their precincts. That's it. Okay. So, Willeen, what you're talking about, again, that's the other thing that we need to do as African Americans. We are locked on historical negative historical events. When we lock in, and we don't wash it out of our systems. I had an uncle. that was in LA, that worked in LA. He got me on that job, right? And he could tell you stories of racial injustice and this, that, and the other. I'm that next generation, and I'm telling you, 25 years, I had the courage enough to stand up when needed, but I didn't have to stand up too often because I walked into the change, and I just want to be the component of the change. So where we lose sight, there's a station I listen to 4:30 in the morning. Greg, you know what I'm talking about. And,
yeah. KJLH. Let them know.
I want to pull my hair because the stuff people lock onto that just isn't happening anymore. As far as the extremities to what they're talking about, is not helping our community. I miss our old community actors, right? Because at least we came to the table and talked. So again, we have to stop. It's almost like we're attached, and I don't mean this in a negative way, Willie. It feels like we're attached to our victimhood, and that's not a black thing. A domestic violence victim that can't leave her spouse for 7 years, right? Because that's all she knows. I'm asking us to begin washing out the excuse process or watching out the old and start standing on footing as we as black people need to be. We need to be strong, smart, and boldly fight with facts and common sense, work with organizations that are actually helping us so we all get better. This is the time to do it. This isn't the 60s anymore, and so if you work in an agency that is like racist or whatnot, and some of these guys are getting exposed, it's popping up on the news, that's a good thing. Celebrate that. That's a win. When Willacoochee County gets exposed for all the years of racism because of video camera, that is great. Isn't that what we asked for? We're going to get to that better agency. We're going to get to that better global police thing. We can't do it without them because we'll go to chaos. There are organizations that want to see complete chaos, allowing the gangsters and drug dealers to win so they can run amok, and they leave to their mansions saying, yes, we can. And you're left in there dealing with your community because police aren't funded. That doesn't make sense either. What is the wise thing? Not the fast thing. What is the wise thing we can do? The wise thing we can do is engage and start having to reopen up these community town hall meetings. And you know what? Show up. I've been to town hall meetings where there was 20 officers ready to talk and 2 community members. One was 96 and one was 86. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We don't come to the meetings. That's for sure.
You gotta come to the meeting. Now it's documented. You put the flyers out.
Yeah, that's true.
What we're asking for, Willeen, thank you for your question. I'm trying to come off this as how we move positively. We have to engage if you want the police, because you can let us figure it out on our own, right? And in us just figuring it out alone, we're going to make plenty of mistakes and upset a lot of people. But we need you to help us figure it out. How does your block work? Who's the leader of your community that we can talk to get messages out to you? Okay. And if you don't want us there, cool. But who's the liaison we can talk to? That's just how we do it.
We've got some work to do in our community. CJ, we're running out of time here. We got to get on to the next project. And I know you got some. Yeah, go for it.
Now, guys, we can talk more about this. If you go to my YouTube page, CLeon Joseph, 7 p.m. tonight, I'm going to have a professional for police science from the police science unit. We're going to be talking about just that, how we move forward. And we're going to have some anecdotal answers. So that's Mentorship Moments, 7 p.m. tonight.
On YouTube?
On YouTube. CLeon Joseph, it streams live there and also streams live on my Facebook page, CLeon Joseph, Mentorship Moments. And you can ask these questions. And this is great because I've got community and officers. I'm challenging them both to talk to each other on this show. So I consider myself a facilitator of facts, and we all going to talk. All right.
We need more of you on these police forces. What I think, man, dude, that's what I'm hearing.
They're coming, and you have to promote them. They're on their way. You guys can follow me at CJ Functional, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll go from there. Okay. I really appreciate you being a part of this. Believe it or not, Greg, you're a part of the change by having brothers like us on the show and allowing us to speak. Many a times the fear is, I know we're closing, is that these all brothers and sisters that get on the show to help and they get attacked. And I want to thank you for not attacking. I knew you weren't going to do it anyway. You're too much of a class act. And that's how we get to the crux of it, brother. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. I just want to hear, I want to hear what your perspective is because I've long recognized, I've had, do you remember Chief Pasinger?
I do remember Chief Pasinger.
Yeah, wow, that's my guy right there. I just really like talking to him and, just hearing the perspective. Chief Parks, Captain Garner, yes, man. Yeah, Chief, Deputy Chief. That's right. Yes.
They were on the forefront. Kenny Garner, especially, was on the forefront of community policing. And when he passed, that was a lot for us to pick up and run. But again, already people like Dion was running the mantle, and he was already running the mantle. People like myself in there trying to change how we do use of force. So yes, he may have fallen off, but there were and passed on. But hey, the mantle is being picked up. But we that are picking up the mantle are asking for our community help. So as people watch this, I hope that we've shown the human side. I was human way before I was a police officer. I was black long before I was a police officer. And I have no reason, I'm about to retire in a couple of years, man. I have no stake in the game to lie to you. I want the best police agency too. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid, and that's why I thought there was such a hard road in my career because I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I'm all about making it better.
You a solid brother. I know that. Hey, that's why we're here he is. It's the homie. Yes, I love it. Okay, CJ, thank you so much for coming with us. You guys can look at this on demand on Facebook. You can go to Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com, and check out the video here. Where else? Audio version only, wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on iHeart, we're on Spreaker, we're on Stitcher, Apple. Just Google it, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Listen, we want to tell you about Juneteenth is coming up Saturday, Juneteenth. We got 2 projects working over here at Dream Creator Studio. We're doing a live virtual festival with Black Arts LA, a complete festival, all online. We have stages, we have breakout sessions, we have virtual vendor booths, it's music performances, great panel discussions, lots of history. It's going to be a great time. I'll put the link in the chat so that you can just go ahead and register in advance. It's free, and it'll be a good way to spend Juneteenth. But then Dream Creator Studio is presenting Reflections of Juneteenth. That's happening on also Saturday evening, 6 o'clock. Now, this one here, digging really deep into the history of Juneteenth. We're talking to descendants of the Black Seminole Indians, and we're talking about the relationship from freed slaves with Mexico, and they celebrate Juneteenth in Mexico. I didn't know that. Did you? You're going to find out all that great stuff. 6 p.m. over there on the Dream Creator. I think we'll also feed Coffee Conversations with that feed too. All right, that's it, y'all. Love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings. Okay.